From the iconic golden and silver ages of comics, all the way through to the modern movie age, one thing has remained consistent throughout the generations: theft, plagiarism, nicking ideas. The industry is a game of sales and demographic appeal, and if one idea works for one company, it stands to reason it will work for another. As a result, a lot of characters are either heavily influenced or outright ripped off from other pre-existing properties. This practice has become standard in the comic book industry and has been going on for so long that some of the most famous rip-offs in the medium's history have outshone their predecessors and become iconic in their own right. And sometimes it helps to step back and be reminded that the characters currently dominating the box office are based on plagiarisms. With that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 superheroes you forgot were total rip-offs.
Oh, but before we start, I'm excited to let you know that we've partnered with Star Trek Fleet Command to bring you this video, because we know you like Star Trek, and we know you like nice things, which means this should be exactly your cup of Earl Grey. Hot. It's an open-world strategic MMO for iOS and Android that's also completely free to play, which means you can save your Latinum and Lithium crystals for a time when it truly matters. It's also got all your favourite Trek characters and places in it, recreated with incredible graphics, which means you can explore the universe just like you always wanted. Level up your ship and crew and become a scourge of the galaxy, or do what I did, and instead try and create a team based solely of characters who've romanced Captain Kirk, which I mainly did so I could hang out with Carol Marcus in space. With weekly missions and events, and an impressive community, Star Trek Fleet Command is a way for you to make the comics and shows come to life in front of you, or for you to just cruise around in the Enterprise, if that's what you're about. Check out the link in the description to find out more, and to start your own adventure.
10. The X-Men ripped off Doom Patrol. Comics fans know that the X-Men were Stan Lee's laziest characters, though often not for the reasons they think. The leader in a wheelchair herds a team of young people with bizarre powers who are shunned by society into an opulent and technologically advanced manor was also the concept behind the first incarnation of DC's Doom Patrol. Cursory research reveals that Lee wasn't even trying to hide his shameless ripoff. Doom Patrol came out 4 months prior to X-Men, but both were marketed as the strangest superheroes of their respective worlds. While the Doom Patrol fought the Brotherhood of Evil, the X-Men fought the Brotherhood of Evil mutants. If anything, the X-Men are the greatest proof that it doesn't matter if you're first, it matters if you're the most popular. 9. Deadpool ripped off Deathstroke. Even people who don't like superheroes or comics or even action movies know Deadpool. That doesn't stop the fact that he's kind of a rip-off though. Thanks to years of character development in the comics, it's almost impossible to tell that Deadpool was originally a pointed, deliberate copy of DC's Deathstroke. When artist Rob Liefeld handed the first draft of the character design to the rest of the creative team, they immediately noted the similarities and so decided to lean into the comparison head-on, naming the character Wade Wilson, a play on Deathstroke's alter ego of Slade Wilson. However, his first character design wasn't the only thing he stole. His fourth wall-breaking, humor, and wily personality are direct rip-offs from the Silver Age She-Hulk. 8. The Teen Titans ripped off giant-size X-Men. From the cover of their first issue, the new Teen Titans were a rip-off of the giant-size X-Men. The most obvious copyright violations were in the new characters introduced to both teams. Raven's billowing cloak was meant to mimic Storm's wide cape. Cyborg shared a general aesthetic, vernacular tone, and serious personality with Colossus. Starfire and Nightcrawler both represented physiologically alien members who were perhaps the most human and likable components of their respective groups. Wolverine and Beast Boy were built around the idea of humans adopting animal attributes which reflected their wild personalities, and both teams were even designed around a central, iconic romantic pairing: Cyclops and Jean Grey for the X-Men, and Robin and Starfire for the Teen Titans. 7. Batman ripped off Zorro. He's existed for over 80 years and has done nothing but evolve and improve in that time, but yes, Batman was once a rip-off. He was an affluent playboy who came from a wealthy family. He had experienced personal tragedy early in life and fought injustice as a vigilante because of it. He donned dark clothing meant to intimidate his foes and blend into the night. These are not just the identifying hallmarks of Batman, they are also key elements of the classic pulp anti-hero Zorro. Kane spoke openly about the influences he took from Zorro to help create Batman. He even incorporated it into Batman's origin. Bruce Wayne's parents are killed when they walk out of a showing of The Mask of Zorro, giving him the trauma needed for him to become Batman, meaning he was the Dark Knight's predecessor on both the thematic and meta level. 6. Black Cat and Catwoman. Who ripped off who? Black Cat is basically Catwoman, there's no way to disguise it. Both are cat-themed cat burglars who use claws, whips and wit to steal their scores and have an on-again, off-again romance with the primary hero that tries to stop them. But what is perhaps the strangest element of this rip-off is that it's unclear who really ripped off who. Before Black Cat came along, Catwoman was almost completely different from the persona comic readers today might identify her by. Even her appearance was different, wearing her hair out in a purple dress with a flashy green cape as opposed to her more stealthy, modern cat burglar uniform. So, while Black Cat stole her hero-villain dynamic, cat-themed crimes, and weapons of choice, Catwoman turned it around and copied Black Cat's skin-tight outfit and her more solitary, loner personality. It is possible that the only reason neither company has been moved to legal action is because they're unsure of who ripped off who more. 5. Doctor Strange ripped off Dr. Fate. Marvel's Sorcerer Supreme has never had too popular a run in the comics, but Doctor Strange's unpopularity may be due to his unoriginal archetype. His concept, character, design, and the title Sorcerer Supreme are all stolen directly from DC's Dr. Fate, and both Stan Lee and Steve Ditko admitted to being inspired by and plagiarizing the wizard-based radio dramas they both grew up loving. The parallels are obvious between both influences. Everything from his aesthetics to mannerisms to his personality are ripped from something else. Pretty much his only original element is the specifics of his origins. 4. Bumblebee ripped off the Wasp. Bumblebee, despite not being one of DC's most prominent characters, has historical importance. Debuting in 1976, she is DC's first black female superhero, but while she has been a constant presence in both the comics and tangential media ever since, DC has never made an effort to play up the fact that she was such a landmark character. And perhaps the reason for that is because literally every other thing about her is a direct rip-off from Marvel's Wasp. The original Janet Van Dyne was the first superheroine to don a yellow, bug-themed suit, have the ability to shrink and grow at will, fly using semi-organic wings inspired by her namesake, and have bioelectrical hand blasts. Karen Beecher did these exact same things, while also having a different and historically underrepresented skin tone. They even share a sassy but maternal personality. 3. Aquaman ripped off Namor the Submariner. While Namor was the original comic book king of Atlantis, he was later copied and overshadowed by Aquaman. Emerging almost 3 years after Namor, Aquaman was also the half-breed king of Atlantis, the son of a nautical human man, could breathe underwater, communicate with and control sea life, had enhanced physical and magical abilities, and wielded a trident ordained by an oceanic deity. However, this character theft often goes unnoticed due to two factors. First of all, the character designs are very different. Aquaman wears a suit of golden Atlantean armor and green pants, while Namor rocks nothing but a Speedo. Respect. Second, their personalities, depending on the continuity, are vastly different, but their powers, weapons, and origins are way too similar for them to not be intrinsically connected. 2. Green Arrow ripped off Robin Hood, and briefly Batman 2. Over the years, many people have leveled the accusation that Green Arrow is just a green-painted carbon copy of Batman. Both are just regular humans using above-average skills and wealth to fight crime. But this is not really the truth. While Batman fights crime out of psychological necessity, Green Arrow is motivated by ideology. A devoted liberal, Arrow is predisposed to be protective of the besieged underclasses of society, and his vigilantism is just the easiest way for him to act on those instincts. So no, Arrow is not copying Batman, but he is copying an older and much more obvious source material. From his archery skills to his socially conscious motivations, to his romantic nature, to his goatee and green cap, Green Arrow is blatantly a Robin Hood for the modern age. And despite being perhaps the most obvious rip-off in comic book history, it often escapes comic fans, who are more than prepared to take a silly costumed man fighting crime with a bow and arrow as an original creation of the medium. 1. Swamp Thing and Man Thing. The tale of DC's Swamp Thing and Marvel's Man-Thing has been a point of contention for decades because nobody is entirely sure what ripped off what in this instance. They both debuted for their respective brands within a month of each other in 1971, and featured near identical designs, powers, settings, origins, and side characters. Swamp Thing was created by Len Wein, while Man-Thing was the brainchild of Jerry Conway. And when both characters were being written, Wein and Conway were living together. Though both have denied there was any plagiarism going on, it is remarkably suspicious that two writers, living together and writing for rival companies, could produce two characters with such blatant similarities at the exact same time. Ultimately, however, the debate is pointless because, in fact, both characters were ripping off a third party. Neither Marvel or DC ever pursued legal action in the matter because they were both well aware that their writers and artists had been heavily influenced by The Heap, a similar character created in 1942. And so Marvel and DC quietly decided to let this one slip by so neither would draw the attention of a potential lawsuit. And there you have it, folks, 10 superheroes you totally forgot were rip-offs. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDogU. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.